Radio.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Naag Radio. We finally have a tech queen. Finally a tech queen who I'm really in love with and inspired by. I love her content. You guys already probably know her. Her name is Amina. I actually came across Amina on YouTube, and it was just really refreshing to see another Somali girl in tech. As a fellow Somali girl in tech, we're like basically invisible. So I was just like, I see you. And she said she see me too, and she replied back to the Gmail. So yes. But Amina, welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm super excited for this episode. For the folks who don't know you, can you introduce yourself to them? We love an amazing elevator pitch.
Hi everyone, my name's Amina. I'm a software engineer and a YouTuber. So I have a YouTube channel called Develop with Amina. I started it during lockdown, and I just share my journey. I talk about tech, career, lifestyle, and yeah, I create resources as well. So I have like a Google Doc where it has a breakdown of my job and the things that I use, and it's attached with like free resources. And I also have a child and parent friendly version as well. So kids can also get into programming. And yeah, I'm also like one of three of a podcast called the Black Muslim Girl podcast. Yeah, I think that's a bit about me then.
Yeah, that's amazing. I feel like I was just laughing at your YouTube. The first YouTube video that I seen of you was the one where you talked about how you told your Somali parents you're moving out in like a day. And I was like, my good sis is a risk taker. Like, you're willing to die. You want to
Listen, the Naag Nool energy sometimes, like, you just got to do it.
I'm ready to go to war.
How is that even possible? Like, as a fellow Somali kid, how'd you do it? Like, are there tips do you have for people who do want to move out, who do want to like seek out their careers and stuff like that post lockdown, inshallah?
The way I did it was so chaotic. There was no plans. It was just vibes and whatever. Like, that was literally my motive. So like, it's funny because I never had any intention to move out at this age. Like I moved out when I was 21. So I had no plans to move out that age. I thought maybe mid to late 20s when I've got my life together a little bit. But it was just, I had just switched from the film industry into tech, and I was doing a boot camp, and then they were doing like job interviews at the end. And I was offered a job, but it was just that job was not in London where I had grown up and lived with my family. So I had to choose, like, if I accept this job, I would need to move out to be closer to that job. So it's so funny because I just accepted the job. I was like, it's fine, it's only an hour and a bit away, I'll figure it out. So I accepted the role. Some of the other girls around me in that boot camp, because it was a boot camp to get women into tech, so it was just like about 20 to 30 women in that course. So some of them got roles too in the same location, just different departments. And, you know, I was going with them, we're viewing places. I was like, my head is in the clouds. I had not even told my parents yet. Literally, I was just going about. And at this time also, like, my relationship with my parents was a bit tense because I had taken 4 months out to not work and focus on this boot camp because it was full time. And so for them, it's like, what the hell are you doing kind of thing. I didn't go to uni as well. So that was another whole, that was another
the list was growing chaos. Reasons to fight.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Basically, at that point in my life, my parents were just so used to me just doing whatever, career-wise anyway, because I switched industries. Like, this is like the 3rd or 4th industry I've switched into from when I turned 18 to now 22. So they're always confused as to what I'm doing, because for them it's like, oh, who do you know that's doing this? You know, you look at your cousins doing this and that. So this is another case of that for them. And they're like, we don't know where your head's at. What's your plan? Like, these times they're asking me, do I know? Obviously, I can't tell them that. I'm just like, I just want to know where I fit in the most. Like, I just want to be in an industry where I can thrive. Mm-hmm. So the tech industry looked promising. And yeah, I was doing that boot camp. They had no idea I was doing viewings. They had no idea I'd even accepted the job because we were finishing our last module. I just happened to get the job offer quicker, alhamdulillah. So like, I was like, okay, cool. I've got a bit more time to like, let me just act like everything's fine. My head's in the clouds. I found a nice place. I was like, you know what? Let me just sign this. I signed my job contract and everything. And then it was like, basically my moving date was on a Friday. So on the Wednesday evening, I I remember I reached out to my dad. I said, Dad, I want to talk to you. And then when he got home, he was like, oh, what did you want to talk to me about? And I had printed out a copy of my job contract and my tenancy agreement for the house that the place I decided to sign for. So I had a copy of those two things in hand. And then he was like, what do you want to talk to me about? And I showed him my job contract and I showed him my agreement for the house. And I was like, oh, by the way, I finished the boot camp. I got offered a job as a software engineer. This is my contract. And then I was like, by the way, it's not in London. So I found a place. I collect my keys on Friday. This is the place and this is the contract. And that was it. There was no like, oh,
no back talk.
Can I do?
Ain't no back
you know
talk.
what it was? I had to just rip the band-aid off because I felt, Somali parents, if you give them time to think about it, that it was just based on like the environment for me at the time. It was just very tense. It was quite toxic. Like my parents, it was just like they just didn't understand what I was doing. The communication was all the way off. So at that time, that was the best way I could have done it. Ideally, I would have wanted it to be more smooth sailing, but it's like with Somali parents, like they see it as you grow up, you provide for the household, you help, then you get married, and then you can leave kind of thing. Yeah. But I always knew that was never going to be for me, and I think they knew deep down as well. They just didn't know when the madness would be activated.
Why is that my family? They do like they let me be myself and express myself, and when I hit 21, they're like, do what you want to do, you're an adult now.
Yeah, but they're always like,
it depends though, like because I'm Barwani as well, so for them it's like marriage. But to be honest, my parents didn't really force that on me, or they didn't really bring it up a lot. But they always had it in the back of my mind, like, okay, you're probably going to be the one that's just going to be career mode. You're going to stay in the house for the longest, blah, blah, blah. Maybe you'll travel. So when this came about at the age I was at the time, 21, they were like, oh, are you really going to be about it? And I didn't want to give them the time to try and talk me out of it. And I also didn't want to talk myself out of it. So I thought if I rip off the Band-Aid and just do it, go for it, then I can see what will happen.
Especially
and so I told him
everything lined up. Like I feel like when you do give Somali parents or like a lot of like immigrant parents the choice of like planning with them, it's a hot mess because
it's a hot mess. It never works out. They'll just, something always goes off, and that was my experience. That with other things in general, whenever nothing even major, even like things that they agree on with, like if I give them time to explain, I don't know what it is. They sort of like put doubts in your head sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes it goes.
You know what it is? They talk to, okay, so sometimes you'll convince your parents of something and you're like, okay, that was really productive. That one call with that one habariyar.
Oh, that's what it is.
That's the worst.
Everything.
All of a sudden, intervention. Oh, so-and-so, their mother's grand's neighbor's dog's best friend up in Africa, they tried the same thing and then they fell down the stairs upside down on a first day. So therefore, I don't think you should do this. Yeah. Like
if you don't believe me, I will send you a WhatsApp video about this that I got.
Yeah, literally. And it could be the most normal thing and they'll find a way to talk you out of it, especially if you're a girl. So I just didn't want that. So I was like, you know what? Let me rip off the Band-Aid. The situation's already tense here. This is an opportunity. I don't want to let go of it. At the end of the day, they're not going to let me out here enjoying myself in my own place. They're going to call me anyway. So, do you know, it sounds really like manipulative, but at the same time, I just knew like if there's distance, there'll be room for conversation. Yeah. So that's why I did it that way. So I told them on the Wednesday night. And then my mom heard after. She was full dramatic mode. She started calling up all these relatives. We need to talk to my child. She's losing it. Maybe there's someone making her do this. And then eventually, it was quite funny because when she was calling like other relatives, they're like, but your daughter knows what she's doing. She seems like she's just does her work and goes off. But either way, it didn't matter because I told them on a Wednesday night. So I had about just under 48 hours to just hold it, just firm it. And I was like, you know what, let the chaos happen. At the end of the day, I've signed a contract. I have to collect my keys. They can't really stop me. And then, I just bounced. And then it was quite isolating, to be honest, because like the first few months, I didn't hear anything from them. Like it was just radio silence. Yeah. But in my head, I was like, okay, but I've got a new job to sort out. So I don't even have time to process these emotions. I just remember like when I moved into a new place and I just sat down and look around and I was like, I can't believe I've actually done it. And I just cried like tears of relief. I felt really relieved given the situation being tense.
Yeah.
And then obviously like my paycheck started hitting, and then
That tech
eventually
paycheck.
I would reach out to maybe through my siblings, and then yeah, eventually I started talking to my mom, and it was pretty calm and casual. And I was like, oh, wow. She just checked in on me, and then we were just having a conversation. And then it just kind of got better there from there. So it was worth it. Very chaotic, but it was worth it.
I know that like mashallah, you did a lot of untraditional routes throughout your journey. Even like now with your career, you talk about you didn't go to university, which is amazing. Like I love people who are in tech who didn't go to university because it's inspiring, because you really took the best route for you. I was wondering, like, how'd you get started, and like why'd you think that, why'd you make the decision to come into tech?
So initially I was basically like in the film industry, but I was more like the marketing and PR side. And sometimes we were working with like digital teams. And initially, I wanted to actually get into UX and UI design because I thought that would make the most sense in terms of the transition and my skill set. Um, but then through that, I was looking for jobs where I wanted a bit more pay, especially within marketing. I was looking for like more of those mid-level roles, and things kept popping up like HTML, WordPress development, PHP, JavaScript, and I was like, what's all of this stuff? And then I look further and it's like, okay, it's coding. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how to code, but let me just do my Google searches. Let me go on YouTube. I started binge watching all these tech videos, and I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool. It's quite creative, but it's also
It
very
all
logical.
starts on YouTube. I love that.
Yeah. So for me, I was actually inspired by like UX and UI design. And then that sort of led me to like front end developing, like web development. So I was like, okay, this seems like something I like, because I'm quite logical. Like a lot of people assume that because I didn't go to university, I wasn't very academic. And it's like, I enjoyed learning at school. I was good at my subjects. My grades were great. I was very much like, I liked studying kind of thing. Which is also why it confused my parents as to why I didn't go to university, because they were like, "You got great grades. Why are you not going?" It seemed like the standard for them. But I actually like the logical side of things just as much as the creative aspect. And coding for me provided that, because you've got the problem solving, but then you can be creative because you can design really cool websites. You can get to think about the user's experience. So it's not just complete like, oh, just all these boring problems to solve. It was a nice balance. And I was like, okay, I want to get into this. And then I remember I used to start tweeting like, oh, coding is another skill I need to add to my skill set. I'll just talk about coding. And then people started following me related to that topic. And then, funny enough, one of my American followers, I wish I could find the account, they retweeted a boot camp that this platform called Code First Girls were offering. And it was like the first time they had ever done anything like this. So we were basically the first cohort. I don't even know if they're repeating this style, because normally they do like 12-week courses, but for the first time they teamed up with a company to fund for like 30 girls for 4 months. And yes, one of my mutual they weren't a mutual, they're just an American follower, because I remember the person sent me the link. They're like, oh, you should apply to this. I keep seeing you tweet about coding. And then I was like, you know what? I have nothing to lose. By this point, I had already finished all like my film projects. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm unemployed now, basically after 2 weeks. So let me just apply to this. What do I have to lose? And yeah, if that person had not retweeted that on my timeline and did not send me the link, I would not have gotten onto that course. And I might not even be where I am right now. So it was just literally just tweeting. Like literally every single job I've ever had, apart from one tutoring job when I was doing my A-levels, I've gotten it through social media. I've never actually had the traditional. It's so mad. Like, it's always someone referring me. It's always someone pointing me to certain applications and then applying through that. I've never gotten a job the traditional way, like ever, to this day. So yeah, that was just another case of like, people keep seeing me tweet about coding, and it confused them a bit because they're used to me being creative. So they're like, oh, I didn't know you were trying to learn how to code. And then that person happened to be seeing my TL, and they were like, hey, you should apply to this. And that literally changed the course of my life, like literally. and that's how I fell into tech.
That's so
People like
amazing.
undermine the power of social media.
Yeah, they really do
Yeah.
undermine the power of social media. Like, I literally got my job at Old Navy. That was the longest job I've ever held, hired on the spot during my interview because of like how bubbly and like, you know, my personality. Like, you know, like my personality gets me the jobs. I've never had to wait to hear back from a job. It's always like you're hired on the spot.
Especially if
Yeah.
you know people from companies and stuff like that. Like I remember I'm not on Twitter anymore, but like when I was on Twitter, I was in South Africa and I was just like tweeting like because like you know how sometimes you get passionate about something and then like but I was like talking about how like yo I really 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 want to get into like I was like I know that project management is the field for me and I need to like you know step up my game. And then I just like randomly like my mentor who now like got me the job I have right now, like amazing person. He DM'd me. He was like, hey, like let's just chat and I would love to know your skill set and like your past internships so I can like refer you. And then ever since then, like I just been on point. Like people on Twitter look out for you more than LinkedIn. For like it's
You'd be
insane.
so
Not
surprised.
even people on Twitter look out for you more than people that you've known your whole entire life. Like, it's crazy.
For literally. And you know what's funny? It's kind of now starting to go full circle because now people reference the resources that I share in their job applications. Like since I started my YouTube channel last year, a lot of people have been referencing me in their applications for boot camps, in their interviews. Like there's certain people when my name got dropped or my channel name got dropped, the interviewers recognized it. So it's like I went from relying on people, not relying, but people giving me their referrals so I can get these opportunities to now
them using
people
you.
name dropping me to get themselves jobs. It's like a nice full circle because it's like I got a lot of help through social media and now people can I've picked up that information and I'm just passing it on and people can now benefit from that. It's so crazy. Like during
It's
this,
so nice. And when
it's
when
so
it does
nice.
come,
I love it.
when it comes full circle, it truly shows that like you are halal and like you know, like
Yeah.
modest and humble. I feel like people who are humble go a long way. Like you're not supposed to like talk about or like I don't know. I'm one of those people where I hold my cards like very close to my chest. There's only like a few people like Ahlam and like some of my other friends that I share shit to, but like other than that, like I keep it to myself. I think that's so important.
Yeah. And I think in this industry in particular, people like to follow your journey with you.
Yeah.
And it's something that comes naturally to me because for me, it's like if I've learned something from someone, I'll document it, apply it. If it works, I'll just share it. And I was doing that way before my channel. So just in general, like I'll tweet out things or I would share opportunities. Or if I see someone's like, oh, I want someone to proofread my application. And I knew what that role was like, I would just message and be like, hey, I just saw you tweet this, let me do that. Because I've had social media since I was a teenager. So it's like, I've had it since I was 16, 17. And I've kind of grown up on it. And my whole career, like a lot of the opportunities came through that. So it's like, now I'm seeing younger people going, or even my age mates, sometimes even older. It's actually quite funny because my audience, especially on YouTube, are like people 35 plus. Like the main chunk is between 35 to 40 something. It's so weird. I don't know how, because I thought most of them would be my age mates, but there's a huge chunk. And it's quite nice because you save people so much time and L's that they could have taken if nobody had told them, hey, by the way, don't go for that. Try this way or take this shortcut. Because for me, I feel like if you don't have to take that L, why should you take it, kind of thing?
Yeah.
Like,
Especially in tech.
And it's okay to take L's.
Like I think that like tech is such a new industry and like there's obviously like we're gonna talk about it later, but there's a huge diversity issue. So like a lot of people like it's their first time going through it. There's nobody in their community going through it, and like especially I feel like in the UK it's different. Like here in America, like especially I live in the West Coast, so like you know tech is so huge. Growing up, like I like basically seen my city be transformed by tech. But again, like
are you in Seattle by any chance?
Yeah, I'm a
Amazon.
I go on this book Canada how like it's again I have that privilege, it's been in front of me, but like for kids who are not, like it's you know it's important for them to see your YouTube channel or even to like have access to you. Even the older people, like tech is a transitional career, you know. So
yeah,
like,
there's definitely not an age gap because so like last year around August time, obviously with what's happening with the pandemic and a lot of children's education, a lot like I was helping out teachers to make sure that kids were still staying on top of their learning, trying to introduce them to what tech is like, because it's not like I didn't learn coding at all in primary school or secondary school. It wasn't anything. I have no qualifications in terms of like formal education when it comes to tech. Like the only quote unquote formal education I have is the boot camp. Everything else is self-taught. So, in the education system here, computer science is not something that was taken seriously. Mm-hmm. It's only now, maybe in certain schools and academies, where it's a subject. It didn't exist as a subject at all growing up at any stage of my education. So it's like, I think now they're starting to realize there's a huge market here in the UK for the tech industry. Like, it's growing, it's in demand. There's so many jobs that need to be filled. So it's like social media is great for that, because I've connected with parents. Like, one of the things that really shocked me, because I just started my channel just to share information, like whatever I know, I'll just share it. But like, people have gotten jobs through the pandemic, just because they're being made aware of certain roles in tech that don't even require coding. There's people in certain communities where they don't get access, like, for example, the deaf community, where they would not, this sort of information, even on YouTube or like just online, they might not have access to it because it's not made accessible for them. Mm-hmm. Like, it's so mad, like, how much information can be shared online. And in the UK, it's such a growing industry. So it's more of like, it's not that there's no talent, it's just people don't know where to look. Mm-hmm. So as someone who's utilized social media and people have guided me and given me advice that saved me years of headaches, the best way to, give back is to share that same advice. Mm-hmm. So that's just sort of how I process it. And it's so mad, like, information spreads like wildfire on social media, so why not just use it for something useful?
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I feel like now I'm gonna become a big techie. It's like where it's at. Ahlam and you guys, I'm literally every day I'm just like, maybe information systems is that.
You should follow this community called Somalis in Tech. Mm-hmm. It's a really, really great online community that was set up not too long ago. And there's also Bridge the Gap in Tech that's also run by Somali. Because I have on Twitter, especially, like, the Somali community within tech is quite nice. I really like it. It's super supportive. Like, the tech community online in general is quite supportive for the most part.
Yeah.
Bar a few trolls here and there, but the Somali tech space online, like in the Twitter communities in the UK, I can't lie, it's really nice for the most part. So that's also been really, like, refreshing to see, because a few years ago, that wasn't the case. Like, there just wasn't any, the diversity rate in the tech industry is so bad. Like, I thought the film industry was bad, and then I got into tech, and it's like, I've never worked with anyone in my day-to-day job that's not white. Full stop.
How do you deal with that though? Like, bro, nobody
draining
it, but like, tech is like not only adan, but it's male dominated, and just
exactly.
As a woman, like, you're constantly being man-explained. You're constantly just dealing with like older white men telling you what to do. Like, how do you deal with it? And like, how do you take care? Like, how do you deal with the microaggressions? Is there any like diversity stuff at your work they do? I don't really know like companies.
Oh my gosh. So this job that I'm in now is my first tech job. Up until maybe May or June, I was literally the only girl in my software team, and then one of 4 in the wider team. To this day, I'm still the only non-white person. So forget black, forget just non-white, full stop. And yeah, basically and it's quite draining. It's the least diverse team I've ever worked in my life, full stop. Mm-hmm. Like, in other places, there's been at least 1 or 2 non-white, but here it's just like, it's so bad. And on top of all of that, another interesting thing that I did not realize I would come across is the age gap. I thought tech was like all young for the most part, but where I work, I don't know, maybe it's the particular industry in tech I'm in, but there's a huge age gap. So you'll have like maybe 5 of us at most that are in our 20s, maybe 1 or 2 in their 30s, and then everyone else is like 50 plus. Yeah. And it was the first time I ever came across that on such a large scale. And I was like, what on earth is going on here? Like, where are everyone my age? So it's like, age, there's not much diversity. Gender, not much diversity. Ethnicity, race, it's so draining. And it does lead to like not being understood or just feeling very isolated. And my current situation is I'm actually trying to leave my role because it's just not it. Like not being around people that look like you, especially now we're all virtual, and it's like you feel the isolation even more. It's like, yeah, this is not it. I know now I can't work in a team where there's no one that looks like me. It's just long. It's not worth it.
Bro, like the biggest advice I give people is to look up like companies like diversity statements and how they do. Like I'm part of National Society of Black Engineers. I always say I love NSB. It's like this organization that helps like Black people get into tech. It's like just like similar to the Somali community saying on Twitter, it's like such a nice bubble and like everybody puts each other on. So like my university, everybody graduates and essentially goes to the same company. And that's the company I'm working at right now. So like it's just so cute. Like it's just like, yeah, like I'm always like,
and it's like they have that for engineering, and then for me they have it for business, NABA, National Association of Business Administration. So it's like you can go to both and network in both. Like I have friends who are part of NSB and NABA.
Yeah. And it's also really nice because like you essentially become a mini you. So for instance, like there's this girl I studied abroad with, like I took the same route she took. We had the same interests and stuff like that. And it's like, it's so beautiful because she puts me on and like I'm putting on the next person, and like the work even like hires from the company because they know the work ethic we have. And like, you know, everybody made a good representation, but like, no, because for us,
we say any UK people?
No, I'm gonna ask around because no, that's impossible. Like
they always need more, especially like for me, like I never thought like one of my dreams is to work at Google, and I always watch Google's videos and stuff, and literally they literally have diversity applications. Like they need you more than you need them.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that because I've been like job hunting over the past few weeks. And there's a huge difference in the US versus the UK when it comes to applying for a number of reasons. And it's like, whoa, some companies, they're literally gagging for more Black women. It's so mad.
Yeah, literally.
Which is quite interesting. Partly because for me, like I'm at the stage where I'm open to try different areas within tech. Like at the moment, I do like full stack engineering, but I'd be open to being more specific. And then also, funny thing that popped up when I started my channel was I focus a lot on accessibility. And in my head, it was just a case of if I'm gonna, so initially I was exposed to accessibility within web development. So writing like code, front end code, that can be applicable for screen readers, just taking into account those sort of things that people interact with the web differently to us. And I just kept it in the back of my mind, like, oh, wow, this is so cool. Like, why was I not aware of this before to the extent? And then fast forward, I started my channel and I noticed initially I was just captioning my videos normally because I like to read stuff with captions. I watch stuff on Netflix with captions. I don't necessarily have any impairments. It's just, that's how I like to do it. Yeah, so I just did that for my YouTube videos, my early videos. And then I realized I had tapped into the deaf community online. Some of them were like tuning in. They're like, oh my gosh, like some of them will message me privately like, oh, wow, you're actually captioning your content. Are you a deaf person? Are you someone that requires? I'm like, no, I just subtitle my content.
No,
and
that's
it wasn't
beautiful.
Like generated ones. It was like I was doing it by hand. And then I was like, wait a minute. I remember when we were learning about web accessibility in the boot camp. And so I was like, what if I found a way to get British Sign Language incorporated in my videos? I had no idea how I was going to do it at the time because even till now, I do all my content creating on my phone.
Your YouTube is so inclusive, and a model you preach is accessibility should be a standard, not an afterthought, which I think is beautiful. What made you understand this and have an accessible YouTube channel? We really want to step it up here at Naag.
Yeah, we're not inclusive at all. Like, well, it's hard with podcasting, I feel like, but I would love to just learn about how.
Yeah, because we both deal with it in our families.
So for me, it was just like for me, I'm just starting like, especially with like my YouTube channel. So initially it was just captioning, like just doing closed captions. And then I thought, you know what, why not step up even more? Because what if there's people that prefer using sign language over just reading subtitles? And so I just started doing my research. I started asking around. Like the first few videos, I didn't have British Sign Language incorporated because I was looking for someone to help me with it. And then I remember like I was saving up and I was like, okay, cool, let me save up and then let me find someone and then maybe eventually build a team. And then even when it came to actually doing it, the first time I used British Sign Language in my videos, it was so hard. I had to like, there's so much you have to think about. So like, I have to think about how fast I speak. I have to think about how I enunciate my words. To this day, like I try to not move my hands around my face because it will block people that are using some people who watch my videos, they rely on lip reading to match what they're reading in the subtitles. So like I sit on my hands, for example. I try to pause after a certain number of words so that when my translator gets my copy of the video with the subtitles, she can make more time. Because one thing that I was learning, and one thing a lot of people don't understand, is that British Sign Language and the English language is not the same. It has a different grammatical structure. So I could say something in English that has like 7 words, but in British Sign Language, it might need 10 words to be translated. So there's like a 3-second gap. So you need to find a way to pause and make sure you're not too behind. So there's all these things that I now had to think about. And it was just a constant learning process, even till now. Even things like with subtitling, you've got videos out there where it's got like a whole paragraph of subtitles. And it's like, as someone as a hearing person, that already doesn't look nice to me. So can you imagine someone who's trying to keep up with what you're saying and then reading 3 lines of captions in one frame? It's a lot to think about. But for me, the way I try to approach it is, if I'm seeing it as a standard and not just like an afterthought thing, then it forces me to think about it from the jump as part of my content creation process. So like, even the way I frame myself, I've had to adjust to that. Like when I'm editing, even before editing, like when it comes to where I put my camera, like my phone, basically, I have to think like, okay, I have to make sure I'm sitting enough to the side so that when there's the British Sign Language clip in the video, there's enough space, because I don't want to make the screen too small, because then how do I know if the person is going to be able to read the subtitles and follow the sign and look at what I'm saying at the same time? It's a lot to think about, but it's really got me questioning, like, what should I be doing as an individual to make sure that I can communicate better with the deaf community, for example? Because there's all these things I didn't know. Like, I didn't know that, you know, certain times when I'm speaking, because I speak so fast sometimes, my lip reading isn't clear. Like, people who rely on lip reading won't be able to understand what I'm saying. Even if they've got hearing aids and they can hear me a little bit, they'll still struggle to understand exactly what I'm saying, because they might hear a certain word, but because the letters are not clearly pronounced via my lips, they might not be able to get that right information. It's a lot to think about, but it's made me realize how shut out the deaf community, for example, are from the world. Because I was doing my research, I was looking at the job market in the UK for deaf people. A lot of the times they are more likely to quit school because they just don't have the right facilities. The employment rate for people with disabilities is so bad here. The statistics are really bad. Even within my own team, so I've got 2 British Sign Language translators, and one of them, now we're in a pandemic where students are already struggling with university. But then now imagine you're a deaf student and your lecture videos are not being captioned properly, the interpreters are not being booked. You're basically expected to get a degree through content that you can't actually access because they're not bothered to make it accessible for you. So I think for me, I just sort of wanted to set as a standard, just for at the beginning for myself, but then other people to see, like, look, if I can do this all on my iPhone, then big corporations have no excuse, big brands have no excuse. And I didn't want it to come across like I'm doing charity work, because these are actual people with lives and personalities, and they're educated and everything. So it's like, why can't they enjoy my content and learn from my content like everyone else? And when I approached it from that perspective, it's like, sometimes when I'm filming, like I almost feel like it feels unnatural when I speak too fast in my videos. It's like, oh no, crap, I have to film again. Um, but yeah, it's just been it's a very interesting process. There's still so much to improve on, but I guess my message would be like, just see it as something that should be a standard, because then you can incorporate in the work that you create, and it just opens you up to a new world where it's like, wow, where have I been this whole time? And what should I be doing as an individual to make it easier for my deaf community? So that's how I see it, basically.
So that's so nice.
No, it's like
Yeah.
I was like really like intrigued because it's like I feel like a lot of times we often overlook like the whole university thing. Like my university, like they would beginning of the quarter, they would like spam you. They're like, "Hey, can somebody take notes?" Like it's literally an afterthought. They would like just like be like, "Can somebody take notes? There's a student in your class that does have a disability that needs it," and it's like it's so inconvenient. I'm like, what if nobody in the class volunteers, or like, what if my notes don't make how I take notes? Like, why isn't like it's just everybody just it's a second thought, and like we literally like design the world for able bodies, and we
Mhm.
take up so much space, and we're just not aware of it because like the world's designed for us essentially.
Do you know what's mad? So I wear glasses, right? And the reason why like wearing glasses is not seen as like a big hindrance or anything is because it's normalized to be able to book an appointment, get prescription, and go. And because it's so accessible, people don't realize that it is a form of a disability. Like, for example, if I don't wear my glasses, I can't do my job because I won't be able to see my code properly because I'm short-sighted. I wouldn't be able to go grocery shopping and see all the food that I need to get. There's so many things I wouldn't be able to do if I didn't have this piece of plastic in front of on my face. But it's not seen as like a huge hindrance because society has made it acceptable for you to have this sort of impairment and still go about your day. And I think also this pandemic has made people more aware of how important it is to have these things in place to make things accessible for everyone. Because for the longest, people don't take disability, wheelchair
Seriously,
accessibility
yeah, they
seriously.
don't.
They don't take people with autism seriously. They don't take people with neurodivergent conditions seriously. Whereas now in the pandemic, oh, actually, guided learning online is possible. Working from home is possible. But all these times you were shutting out people on wheelchairs because your buildings were accessible and working from home was not seen as something to take seriously. And I feel like this pandemic has really opened a lot of people's eyes. Actually, you can. It's just that you don't want to. And I think I just, for me personally, I don't want it to be a thing where it's just a trend. It needs to literally be a standard, because if everyone has accessibility provided for them, then there's so much more you can achieve. And I don't mean to say that just to sound cliche, but it literally doesn't bother anyone for my content to be accessible. It literally just means more people can access it, and nobody loses out on that. So yeah, I would like to be in a situation where I could see like this option to be available on like Netflix screens or at university. I want to be in a world where it's like, if there was an online virtual event, it would be a standard to have an interpreter there. It would be a standard for it to be live captioning. And it's quite hard as an individual to incorporate everything, because now it's like I have to think sometimes like I need to make sure when I post stuff on Instagram where it's visual, that I'm captioning my stories, because I have deaf people watching my Instagram stories. Or like when I post something on my Instagram feed, you've now got the option of alt text, which is a way to describe the pictures for screen readers, so people that can't see very well. There's so many things to take into account, but it's like it feels overwhelming because it was never seen as a standard, and it's still not seen as a standard. So hopefully I would want to see it more normalized, especially in tech, because we talk about like being so technically advanced and, tech is the future, but it's like you can't get it right for a community that's been around for so long, and they're completely being shut out from the world. A lot of them are, experiencing the world silently, literally. But
Even
apparently our industry is advanced, but we're not,
accessible
because we're not even
technology is
getting
not
that
even
right.
like accessible technology is not even taught in like school, like colleges and
Right?
like courses and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like I remember in my university, like some people were getting extra point. Like the professor was like, "Wow, like you thought outside the box," just because like they came up with an idea that was
Yeah.
accessible. And I'm like, that's just
It's so
so
annoying.
it's like, bro, even for me, like I'll call myself out, like, bro, I studied abroad, learning about disability and accessibility, and I still am an ignorant able body because it's like you're right. I'm like
Mm.
people are like, oh, it's sometimes it's like I should do it. It's the right thing to do, but you're like, I don't, the technicalities of it are so, but it's because we don't take time out of our day, to look at it and be
Yeah.
like, how can I make this happen? Like even like right now, although not is a podcast and like we're not on YouTube, we can be on YouTube. We can't take the extra mile to caption or even like post an article with all the, the transcript of
Yeah.
everything. Like we can. It's just that, we're ignorant and we kind of are lazy. We're like, that's a bit,
Yeah.
you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it's honestly like we should do our part and like I'm so inspired because it's like you're right. It's like it should not be an afterthought. It shouldn't be like after I'm done editing all the audio and stuff like that, I go, how can I make this accessible? It should be the first, just like how we think about audio.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We think
Mhm.
about, yo, is this audio good to post? Like we should think about that too. So
And you know what's mad? It's like there's times where brands have reached out to me or publications have reached out and they're like, oh yeah, representation, representation. But then from the jump, I'm like, dude, you're asking me about accessibility for the deaf community. You want me to speak for a whole community that I'm not part of when I've
Mhm.
literally got a team of Black deaf people that can help you with this. And it's like, I think the wider issue is a lot of these institutions and organizations that aren't seeing it as a standard from the jump. They sort of want to have like this token mentality, like, oh, we're doing you a favor by considering accessibility. We're doing the deaf community a favor by actually taking you seriously. And it's like, but why is that the case? You're not doing me a favor by, making text bigger so I can see it with my glasses. That's not a favor. You see it as a normal thing. So why can't you see it as a normal thing to have an interpreter or captioned content? And one example I can give that's really nice to see is on TikTok. Like
Mhm.
having closed captions is quite normal and it's quite like seen as part of the creative process.
Mhm.
And if those kids can get that right, what are these big brands doing with all this money? What are universities doing to make sure that their deaf students are not being left behind? And like when I have had brands reach out to me, I'm already saying from the jump, like, okay, if you release this, it needs to be accessible for my audience because I have a chunk of my audience who are deaf. And so I can't sit here, write a piece about accessibility, but then my audience can't see it. Like an example was there was this major publication where I did an interview with them. Then they released a video on Twitter and I initially retweeted. I said, oh my gosh, look who's in this video. But then I had to delete it because I was like, wait a minute, that video is not subtitled. So if I share this now and say, oh, I featured in this interview, a huge part of my audience that's important to me they don't know what I'm saying because they
Mhm.
can't, there's no captions. And so I had to reach out and it was frustrating because I had already told them from the jump, like, I need this feature to be captioned because it's a video content. And if it's not, then I don't want to proceed ahead. And thankfully they took it down and they reposted it. But it's just little things like that we can do as content creators, as individuals in general. Like, for example, like I have friends I've made online who are deaf and they're asking me, oh, what does this video say? Can you quickly transcribe it for me? And it could be like a little short clip of a meme, but they won't be able to interact with it because they don't know what's being said. So I would give props to like TikTok as a platform, for example. Like a lot of super young kids who are on there, they make it so normal and it's like, it is possible, it is doable. It's just a lot of these big organizations are so stuck in the past. They're still doing diversity and inclusion programs. They're not even getting the other stuff right, let alone accessibility. And it's just
Mhm.
frustrating being in the tech industry now because it's like we literally have the tools to get it right, but we're still not seeing it as a standard. So I would like to see that change personally. And that's what led me to discovering a role that I did not realize existed in tech, which is you can be like a developer with a focus on accessibility. There's like a whole course on it. There's like this accessibility coordinator role where your job is literally to run some tests to make sure that companies' websites and apps are accessible, otherwise they get sued. I didn't know this is a whole thing. So that's something that I've got my eye on because it's like it combines my love for coding and tech and also my passion for making things accessible as a standard.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's just been my experience of all that, and that's what sort of pushed me.
I'm definitely gonna send your YouTube and stuff to the organization I'm a part of because we can work on that. Just to like, because it's a huge organization. It's like thousands of people are on it, and we just, because
Yeah.
we don't have closed captions, all these things, people in the deaf community can't see. It's inspiring, and also like not just in coding, but if anybody's interested in like anything accessible wise, like there's like a lot of websites and stuff like that. I'll link it down below. Like when I was in South Africa, there was a lot of like accessibility product roles. Like if you're interested in product design or like product management, it's like so interesting on how like they develop it and they customize it for everybody's needs and stuff like that. It's like once you start thinking about that way away, I think it just pisses me off because like tech is designed to make the world a better place, and this is like an industry and this is an aspect of the world that it can change, but it's like, as you said, brands are just stuck in the past, so we probably won't see it anytime soon.
On a brighter note though, since I've started like putting accessibility at the forefront of my work, I feel like I've unlocked a whole new world for myself, and it just feels, I feel like I enjoy my work a lot more, because every time I've done editing, I've done doing something, it's like, okay, I've gotten better at covering all my bases from the jump, and it shouldn't feel like charity work, is what I'm trying to say. And also from a technical perspective, like in terms of like when I code in my day-to-day, even though accessibility is not something that my workplace focuses on, like sometimes I'll read my code and it's like, oh my gosh, I know how I would make this accessible, and I know how I would do. And it feels great because you feel like you've unlocked a whole aspect. And it's just nice to hear from people who are like, I would never have learnt this because I just wouldn't know where to look for this sort of information. There's like really, really young kids, there's older parents who are like, as a deaf parent, as a deaf child, I wouldn't have never figured this out, or it would have taken me longer. It just feels good, and it really opens you up to a whole community, and it's just a nice way to exchange information. And I feel like that's what tech should be about. So I really genuinely feel like these companies are missing a trick here when it comes to making things accessible.
Yeah, I feel like that's why TikTok is such like a popular app, and I feel like it's take over social media. But can you walk us through what a typical workday or work week looks like for you? Is it just coding, or is it like meetings? Like,
I don't code as much as people think. Software engineers do. If I had to break it down as percentages, in a day-to-day thing, I would say maybe like, it depends. So say, for example, we're starting a new sprint for a project, and sprints normally just like a period of time where we work on specific things and we build certain parts of a wider project. So say if it's at the beginning of that sprint, one day would look like a whole bunch of meetings. So it would be like maybe 60% meetings, 20% writing up documents or reports, and then the other 20% planning out what you're going to code. I personally feel like on average in my day-to-day, I probably spend like 40% of the day coding max, because a lot of the times, like, you don't just jump in coding straight away. You have to know exactly what you're solving. You have to know what feature you're working on. You have to make sure it aligns with what the customer wants. There's a lot of communicating, a lot of meetings, capturing those requirements. Sometimes you're not coding anything from scratch. In fact, a lot of the things I code are not from scratch, to be honest. I've just gotten really good at Googling things, enjoying my time on Stack Overflow, not enjoying, but like panicking my way through Stack Overflow, copying and pasting code that I need, and then just refactoring it to fit into what I'm trying to do. I think that's a huge skill as a developer in general that you should pick up. So yeah, I don't code as much. I would say 40% coding generally, maybe like 30 to 40% meetings, stakeholder management, and then the rest is just trying to figure out how I'm going to approach a problem, getting stuck, having breakdowns, crying while you're Googling things, and rinse and repeat. That's basically what an average day looks like.
Welcome to my life.
Oh, it's like you going through that just gave me PTSD from my coding classes. I do not miss them. CSC, anything. Oh, greed.
Oh my gosh, and you've got the
Oh,
testing and the pipelines. Oh God, no.
I hate when like my code is not working and like I stayed up all night trying to figure out what's wrong and I go to my professor and he literally goes, that little dot right there and move it.
Oh, it's the type. It's. I use Python and the indentation. Oh gosh.
I hate Java the most. If I could fight Java, like if Java was in front of me, I
Oh
would actually try
no.
Java. I hate Java so much. I hate it.
Or
But I
like
think
JavaScript where you miss the semicolon, or like you haven't closed the bracket. It's the most silliest things, and and one thing I've learned over time is just if you're stuck and you've tried everything, don't spend a few more hours on it. Just ask for help. Because the number of times I've had like colleagues
That's
who are
me
just
right
like,
now.
oh, you just forgot to comment out a line, or you've just missed the indentation. Oh wait, you've got a typo because you can't spell function.
No, I'm not even gonna lie, like that's me right now trying to figure out my personal blog, and I'm even too shy to ask Ahlam sometimes because I'm like, I don't want to bother her. But Ahlam truly is the queen of like getting shit done. So I
no,
should
it's
probably
hard. Wallahi, like I feel like asking for help in any sense is awkward, especially
So
like
hard.
I feel like as a lot of my interests and stuff, a lot of my internships and stuff, I just felt really off because I'm like, I'm already a minority, and if I sit here and tell these fools that I'm struggling for this basic code or basic assignment, they're gonna be
Yeah.
like, last time, ha, yeah, no, can I? But it's
Mhm.
because it saves you so much time. Because once you ask for help, it's like, you get it done in like an hour or two instead of like 5 hours of mental breakdowns.
Yeah, honestly, I learned that the hard way because there was times where like I've been given a set of tickets and I've gone through most of it, and then there's like one thing that's holding everything else back. And I'm like, nah, let me figure it out. Let me figure it out. I don't want to look stupid. And it just cost me hours and hours and hours, only for me to realize if I had just asked for help, this would have literally saved my life. And I wouldn't, because
Literally.
they don't care. And do you know what's mad? When people ask me for help, I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not thinking in my head, oh, these people are stupid. Oh, what's wrong with you? I'm just thinking, oh, this person asked me for help. Let me help them. So
Yeah.
other people probably think like that, but in my head, I'm thinking, nah, I'm the only person that's not white hair. They're gonna
Literally.
think I'm just a little tick
But
box,
really, it's
like.
only you that's moving that way. Everybody else
Yes,
is mine.
I'm my
That's me.
enemy.
I'm my own enemy, bro. That's me right now with the gym. I'm just like, no, I can't go to the gym. They're all gonna look at me and see me struggling. I can't do this. And my brother was like, that's literally your paranoia. Nobody gives a fuck about what you're doing. And I was like,
No,
okay.
literally.
Right.
Everybody's in their own little world, especially at work. You're just like, oh, you need help. That or this, where it is. Like next caller. But I'm gonna like one of our last questions. So hard, man. One of our last questions is, what advice do you have for all our Nagnals who are listening who are interested in tech? Like, what are top 3 things that they should think about and like what they should do to get into this field?
I would say if you're not in like a typical tech role, you're in a completely different industry, I would say list out the things that you do currently or list out the things that you're passionate about and then research the skills related to that. So for example, when I was in marketing, I listed out all the skills that I have within marketing. And then I would list out the things that I'm interested in another industry, like for example, tech. And then I'll look at certain jobs, and then I look at their job description, and then I'll see if any of my skills that I currently have match the ones that are in those job descriptions. I look for any similarities, and then I would sit there and put together that list. And it's like, okay, cool. So this is what I have. This is what I could potentially transfer. And now let me look at the things that I don't have. What does it actually ask me to do? And then I break that down. And then it's just a matching game at this point. And if you're not too sure, social media, like social media, things like Twitter and LinkedIn, and now I would say Clubhouse too. It's not the most accessible app in comparison to the other two, but I would say Clubhouse as well because I've connected with quite a few industry people. But Twitter is a great place because all you have to do is just search up certain hashtags, certain keywords, and it will give you like lists of people who have it in their bios or who talk about it. Especially if you're listening to this and you're Somali, there's so many great platforms now with all these tech communities. So you've got like Somalis in tech, you've got Bridge the Gap in tech. There's like this newsletter that came out recently called Dev Daily. I'll probably send you all the links. But I would say reach out to people, ask people who are doing jobs that you're potentially interested in. That's something that I used to do before I got into tech. Say, for example, I wanted to apply for this marketing role. I would look on LinkedIn with anyone who has that same job description. And then I'd reach out to them, be like, hey, how does your day-to-day look like? Like, what do you think of this role? Is there anything I should be aware of? And wallahi, that saved me years of stress. Like, my current job requires a degree and 2 years experience, and I don't have neither. So, like, lean into people, like lots of people, especially in the tech industry, they love helping you out. It's quite nice like that. A lot of people actually benefit from helping, and a lot of things are open source. So I would say keep an open mind, reach out to those people, and look at the skills that you do have. Don't be shy about the things that you know. List them out and look at it for yourself on paper. You'd be surprised how many jobs cross over. And also, not everything in tech is about coding. There's a lot of things in the
That
creative
part,
field.
let them know. Let
Yeah,
them know.
there's
'Cause
so
I
many
can't
other
code for shit.
places. And the thing is, the tech industry as a whole, in all departments, is in demand. It's not even one of those things that, oh yeah, this bit is oversaturated. It's not. Like, and with the way the world is going now, it's going to be in even more demand. So pay attention to the skills that you do have. And as different as it might be to the tech industry, you'll be so surprised how many of those skills are needed in the industry. So that's my advice. And just go for it. Guys, please just move mad in a good way. Move mad, shoot your career shot. Shoot your career shot. Like, listen, some of these men in these industries, yeah, when you actually deep what they have in qualifications, you would literally sit there and be like, do you know what? I actually can't lack. There is money to be made in this industry. Shoot your shot, because in tech, everything is in demand. Everything is in demand. So
And confidence,
don't hold yourself back.
Yeah, confidence. Yeah.
I think you would agree. I was talking in our other interview. I was telling the author we were interviewing about how, like, I'm always self-conscious about my personality and how bubbly I am.
Mhm.
But in tech, it's like people love that. Like, people
They
love when
love
you're
it. It's a
outspoken.
rarity. It's a rare thing.
No, I literally was telling
Everyone's so
the
socially awkward.
my confidence is what shot. I literally was the man in me and Aham's relationship. I shot my shot with her when she was in Barcelona in Spain on a study abroad, and I was like, if I wasn't that confident, like I would not know who Aham is right now, and I would not have anything.
We would not be friends. We would not be sisters. Like, it's
We would not
insane.
be friends.
Like,
Yeah.
like, you have to. I feel
in
like
my head, I'm just thinking, listen, if I could move mad and move out 2 days before telling my parents, then what do I have to lose? What do I have to lose? And even like with people that are like socially awkward a little bit, it's like, think about the things that you will lose by not asking. Because if you don't ask, it's a guaranteed no that you're not going to open that door for you. But if you do ask, there's like possibilities. And if there's a possibility, there's a chance.
Yeah.
Whereas if you completely close that off, you know already there's nothing there. So where's the excitement? It's not there.
Also, men move so bad. Like, my professor who was telling me that men apply to jobs that they have like one qualification for, like they just apply, they shoot their shot. Whereas women, unless they have all the skills or like everything, overthink it. But like, wallahi nimanka, like I like sometimes like young Somali boys will hit me up and I'm like, oh, what role are you interested in? They go this role. I'm like, I can't even apply to that one. And they go, no, my mentor said I can do it. And I'm like, if he's doing that, what's my excuse? Like, they just like shoot their shot every day to women, to careers, to things they will never get in their lives.
Listen, men will have one thing if they don't have everything yet. It's audacity. So apply it to yourself. Apply it to yourself.
We need that on a t-shirt, bro. Say that again.
Wallahi, like, oh
guys, feel free to help me out. Listen, men will have absolutely nothing to their name. If you can bank on the one thing that they will have, it's audacity. So literally, it rubbed off on me. It really rubbed off on me.
No, it does, because like especially like in university, like Adan men in my class would argue with the professors. This man is a PhD holder in his career. This man spent years studying. This man Adan would be like, actually, I still don't understand what you're saying, and I honestly disagree with it, and here's why. And I'm like, shut up, Iga Amos. Like, why are we arguing? Like, shut
Listen,
up.
do you know what it is? Yeah, Somalis are ruthless, so I don't understand why this is not being transferred in the workplace.
No, you know why? Because I think we're, at least for me, I get shy. Like I cannot, like, unless you're my family, and alhamdulillah, I come from a very educated family, so does Ahla. So like I have no problem like asking like I networked with my like cousins, you know, but anybody outside my family, I get so shy. Like I cannot ask.
But it's like you have to work on that. I mean, like I get like getting shy, but I also think our Somali culture, Arab culture impacts us. Like,
Yeah.
although we're
definitely.
chaotic, we're constantly like, this shit, don't do this outside the house. Like, this is
Mhm.
not
But at
okay.
the end of the day, closed mouths don't get fed. If someone told you that, you know, you can get $2,000 to help you pay your bills and they wanted to hand it to you, you would say yes.
Yeah,
Really,
that's
on the
true.
low, you would say
Bro,
yes.
let me
So
promote this
the only
college
thing
real
standing
quick.
between is a job.
Listen, bro, emails every day from this website called Fast Web Scholarships. 10 out of 10 recommend. So you can give you free money. There you go. Literally.
Speak up. Literally, that's all.
Wow.
This, I
And
think,
America is quite cool for that because you guys have scholarships and stuff. In the UK, that's very rare. Very, very rare. We don't do scholarships like that. It's not a common thing.
yeah, and even in
Why?
tech, America's so like. I get like tech again. I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm coming from a place of privilege, but American companies are stepping up and are doing a bit of work. Like a lot of universities have NSB.
Oh,
a-
America's ahead.
Yeah,
UK is like whatever America is at, UK is 10 steps
But
behind.
why does it feel the opposite, right? I don't know why. I feel like America's behind.
Let me tell you something. My role, yeah, if I was working in an American company, I would be earning 4 times more what I'm on. That's how bad it is.
the money. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That's
After
how
this
bad
call, I'll
it
explain
is.
something. No, I agree
When
on that.
I tell you, wherever Americans are in terms of the tech scene, UK minus 10.
Yeah,
That's where we are. It's that bad.
What is it like in the UK? In America, one of like Arab culture is you don't discuss your salary like out loud.
Oh, in
That's
the
another
UK,
thing.
everyone's polite. Like, let me tell you something about the UK in general. Yeah, we like to suffer politely, stiff upper lip, get on with it. You could be crumbling, dying, crawling your way through life,
Mhm.
but you have to firm it. So there's no discussion. I've actually found that Americans are a lot more transparent.
yeah.
In general,
I don't
not
like
just within
talking
the
about
tech.
that kind of stuff.
No, I think
It's so
that
important to though.
yeah, Black Americans and like other African immigrants are definitely transparent about it.
Yeah.
And like, but like from my experience, again, I was in Nesby, like a lot of the Somali guys and stuff like that, they were super open to me about it. They would be like, okay, this is like what you should be offered. And it's just good to know because like as women, we already don't negotiate. So it's like they probably offer me anything. I'm like, please pay me. I'm willing.
Oh, there's like a rule of thumb that I picked up from some of the Americans online, especially the Black Americans. And I've been applying it to my job hunting. Whatever salary that I have in mind, add $5,000 to it.
Yes.
And then say,
Period.
yeah.
Also, like
Period.
always negotiate. Like, inshallah, like we're gonna have somebody talk about this in the upcoming episodes. But negotiation is so important as women, like all from all walks of life. Women don't do that; they just accept the salary from the first jump. But especially in tech and stuff like that, you can literally negotiate. Like sometimes, like you might say $5,000. These people are willing to accept $10,000 for you because that's how much
Yeah.
they value you. But you're undervaluing yourself.
There's also a tip. If you don't know what to ask, like you're really shy and you don't know, just literally flip the question back at them and be like, what is the salary range for the successful applicant?
Yeah, and
Just,
also when
if
you're
you're
going
gonna think
into
of
it,
that line, just think of that one line. Memorize that in your head. That's it.
there's
If you don't
literally
know them out.
not even, bro, Google is free. There's literally websites that say averagesalaryjobs.com that will tell you the average salary
Yeah.
is for that job in this moment in time. And then I know Glassdoor, there's like reviews that you can look at of people
Yeah.
and what they were getting paid. So
Yeah.
like it's like
Glassdoor
Yeah.
is really accurate too. I'd say Glassdoor is really, really accurate. Like people like post after their offers, like boom, me people being me, but yeah.
Now, if this is like for more, if you're like
Exactly.
super shy, you freeze up or whatever. If you're gonna remember one line when it comes to offers, what is the salary range for the successful applicant? If you go completely blank, you have no idea what number to say. What is the salary range for the successful applicant? Leave it at that.
Beautiful.
If you can't have the leverage, just do that.
No, literally. No, I hope everybody takes that down. I'm gonna, remember that because I'm not shy, but I will remember that part. My last question for you, which is our favorite question, is who's the Naag Nool in your life who has inspired you and your overall journey?
Do you know what? I don't have one, but as of recent, I have one because she's actually like, she looks like an older version of me. She's like my doppelganger, basically. Let me I don't think you understand. Like, it's so scary. I came across her like 2 days ago. Her name is Janella Massa. She's Canadian. She's like a reporter,
Oh.
and she literally looks like an older version of me. Like, I was scrolling past. I was like, wait, I never did that. And then I looked closely, and I'm like, this is not me. And then a few people kept reaching out to me and saying, I thought this person was you. She's super talented. She basically created her own dream job. She's like a journalist. She's got a new show coming out on the 11th of January. And I just started reading through her work, and I'm just like, I feel like she's in my head, but like an older, more mature, more grounded, life's working out version of myself. And that's really been like keeping me sane for the past few days. But in terms of like growing up in general, there was a time in my childhood, I was a very sporty child. So Serena Williams, the Williams sisters in general were very inspirational for me. Not even just because of the sport itself, but they were just go-getters. They were navigating a time where it was not normal to see Black tennis players playing at the level that they're at. And just seeing the dedication to the sport was very inspiring. And, you know, as a sporty kid, it was like, yeah, I think it definitely contributed to my confidence growing up as a child. So there was that. And then obviously, like, it was just loads of different groups of Black women throughout my life. There wasn't any specific, I don't know, it's very hard for me to attach to just one person. I like to learn in a communal way, if that makes sense. I like groups of people and tapping into them and learning from them and vice versa. So that's basically how it's been like when it comes to inspirational role models.
Nice. No, thank you so much for coming on. Where can our listeners keep up with the amazing work that you're doing? Because I know they're all gonna bombard you. So
so all my social media platforms are Yeah She Writes. Should I spell that out?
No, you're good.
yeah.
I'll
put it. Yeah, I'll put it.
Yeah, so all my socials are Yeah She Writes, and then my YouTube channel is Develop with Amina.
That's I love the way that sounds. Your mind.
Yeah. It's a nice play because it's not limited to tech, but it's still developing and growing.
Well, thank you so much for coming. This was so insightful. This is so inspiring. I know our listeners enjoyed it, inshallah, like we did. I'm a huge fan, and you know, I'm already subscribed. I'm gonna start commenting now. So catch me under Amina's YouTube, guys.
Thank you so much for having me. This is really nice, and I love your podcast. So
thank you.
Thanks so much for coming.